Not an image. This is a real personality. Jimin and HYBE clarified Jungkook's attitude. In the midst of the global spotlight that never goes out, BTS's Jungkook name is again a hot topic of discussion. Not because of his musical achievements, nor because of his streaming records or his always stunning stage performances, but because of one thing that seems simple but triggers various interpretations: his attitude. On social media, pieces of Jungkook's video that looked quiet, calm, even considered cold by some netizens, suddenly went viral. Speculation has also sprung up. Some accused Jungkook of maintaining his image. Others called his change of attitude a form of distance from the public. However, behind all that wild narrative, Jimin and HYBE finally spoke up to set one important thing straight. This is not an image, but Jungkook's real personality. Jimin, known as one of Jungkook's closest people since his trainee days, was the first to emotionally clarify. In a chance interview and casual conversation that was later widely quoted by the media, Jimin firmly dismissed the notion that Jungkook changed or made up. According to him, Jungkook is a person who from the beginning did not like to show themselves through words. He is not the type who feels the need to prove something with exaggerated expressions. When in a public space, Jungkook chooses silence, observation, and listening. For Jimin, calmness is not a distance, but a way for Jungkook to take care of himself in the midst of tremendous pressure as a world-class idol. Jimin's statement feels important because it comes from a very personal point of view. He doesn't speak as a group mate on stage, but as someone who grew up with Jungkook from his teens. Jimin revealed that Jungkook has always had a habit of processing many things in silence. While other members may express their emotions through words, Jungkook chooses to keep them, reflect, and then express them through his work. Music, rehearsals, and performances are Jungkook's most honest language. That is why, according to Jimin, the public is often misunderstood for judging Jungkook only from pieces of the moment, not from the overall context of him. Along with clarification from Jimin, HYBE as an agency also provided a statement that reinforced the narrative. HYBE asserted that Jungkook was never directed to build a certain image that was contrary to his personality. In the internal environment, Jungkook is known as a polite, hardworking figure and very respectful of the staff. His calm demeanor is not the result of a media exercise or branding strategy, but rather a reflection of his true character. HYBE even mentioned that Jungkook often feels uncomfortable if too much of the spotlight is on his personal attitude, because for him the most important thing is the result of work, not perception. HYBE's statement was a response to allegations that Jungkook deliberately built a mysterious persona to maintain public appeal. The agency emphasized that precisely Jungkook is one of the most consistent artists between life in front of the camera and behind the scenes. It doesn't change just because of popularity. If it looks calmer now, it is not so much because of the distance with fans, but rather because of the maturity that comes with time and experience. Jungkook, who used to be expressive as a magne, has now grown into an adult individual who is more selective in his reactions. The phenomenon of misinterpretation of Jungkook also reflects the broader reality of how the public views idols. In the age of social media, every gesture can be cut, framed, and summed up without context. Jungkook, with his non-reactive attitude, becomes an easy target. Silence is considered arrogant, calm is considered cold, and focus is considered indifferent. In fact, according to Jimin, Jungkook is one of the most caring members. He just does not always express it verbally. Jungkook's care is often seen in small acts that are rarely exposed to the camera. The ARMY's reaction was split before this clarification emerged. Most longtime fans actually understand Jungkook's character, but not a few are affected by the negative narrative. After Jimin and HYBE's statements were widely circulated, many fans voiced relief. They feel that what they have believed in has finally received official confirmation. Jungkook isn't building walls, he's just being himself in a world that demands more. Interestingly, this clarification also opens a discussion about the emotional burden that Jungkook carried from a young age. Debuting in their teens, being the backbone of a global group, and living under the scrutiny of the public certainly shapes the way one survives. Jungkook's calmness can be read as a self-protection mechanism. He learned to calm down in the midst of expectations that never stopped. In this context, Jungkook's attitude is not a weakness or a strategy, but rather a form of emotional maturity that is rarely talked about. Jimin closed his statement with a tone full of empathy. He hopes the public can see Jungkook as a human being, not just a figure. Jungkook doesn't always know what to say, but that doesn't mean he doesn't care. HYBE also added that they will continue to support Jungkook to be himself, without pressure to meet certain image standards. For them, authenticity is a non-negotiable value. In the end, this clarification confirms one simple but important point. Jungkook is not playing a role. He does not build masks for the sake of popularity. His calm demeanor is a reflection of a genuine personality that grows with time, experience, and great responsibility. Behind the lights and the hustle and bustle of public opinion, Jungkook is still an individual who chooses to go his own way. And perhaps that is precisely where his most powerful honesty lies. Honesty is what is often missed by the public who are used to seeing idol as an instant product. Jungkook, on many occasions, never claimed to be the perfect figure. It just rarely says it openly. His silence is often mistaken for disinterest, whereas for those closest to him, it is precisely a sign that he is carrying something big in his mind. Jimin even mentioned that Jungkook often chooses to bear his own burden so that others around him still feel comfortable. He does not like to bother, does not like to complain, and prefers to solve everything through hard work. HYBE added that in the training room, Jungkook is the most consistent figure to arrive early and come home late. He rarely spoke much, but his focus almost never wavered. When things don't go his way, Jungkook doesn't explode. He will repeat the exercise many times until he feels enough. For the agency, it is this character that is often invisible to the public. The camera prefers big expressions and quick reactions, while Jungkook moves in quieter, deeper, and more personal territory. This clarification also changed the way some media viewed Jungkook. Instead of continuing to bring up the controversial narrative of attitude change, some media outlets began to highlight the maturation process that the idol underwent. Jungkook is not deprived of warmth. He just no longer expresses it in the same way as when he was a teenager. Time and responsibility teach it to be more selective, more careful, and calmer. In a world that is always noisy, Jungkook chooses silence as a form of self-control. For ARMY who followed BTS's journey from the beginning, this explanation feels like a puzzle piece that is finally complete. They recognize Jungkook as a person who has always tended to look down when praised,